Audio on demand from Vision Christian Media.
Exploring faith and the future. Neil Johnson and Bible teacher Dr. Kameel Majdali.
We're taking our time to get our heads around what it is to have sure foundations. Kameel, we can rely on historical content, we can rely on theoretical and even philosophical content, but if we talk about restoration, there's other bigger things that God has in mind, a spiritual restoration for his people.
Well, absolutely. This is one of the exciting things about the last days, is the fulfillment of Acts chapter 2, verse 17, where Peter, in his first sermon on the day of Pentecost, or shall we call it his first sermon after he was filled with the Holy Spirit, he says in Acts 2:17, and as the prophet said, in the last days, says God, I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh. When Peter spoke these words, quoting from Joel chapter 2, God was pouring out his Spirit on a limited amount of Jewish flesh, namely the disciples of Jesus, who were 100% from the house of Israel. So it wasn't even all the Jews, it was just those who believed in Jesus, and it's the day of Pentecost. What Peter is talking about, or what he is being used of God to bring to the fore, is that the outpouring of the Spirit will be on all flesh, meaning it's going to be not just on Jews, but on Gentiles, not just in Israel, but among the nations. This is exactly what we have seen for over 100 years. We call it the Pentecostal revival, but it really is the latter-day outpouring of the Holy Spirit. It officially started in 1901, ironically or coincidentally, on the very day Australia became a federated nation, 1st of January 1901. Isn't that interesting? Because Australia, its proper Portuguese Latin name is Terra Australis del Espiritu Santo, Southland of the Holy Spirit. So isn't that coincidental, or is it not, that on the very day the Southland of the Holy Spirit became a federated nation was the official starting date of the latter-day outpouring of the Holy Spirit. That's why the manifestation of Pentecostal charismatic movement in this nation is very unique, like an Australian version, totally different to other places. But it's still the Holy Spirit and it's still empowering. Then it was 1904 in Wales, then 1906 in Azusa Street, and it spread like wildfire. This revival has never stopped. It is over 100 and some years old. But the thing is so amazing is the statistics are, and this was a few years ago, it is estimated of the world's population, 10%, which is like, 750 million people, are under the banner of Pentecostal, charismatic, or third wave. And all of this in just a mere 100 years. What God does by His Spirit, He can do quickly. But the other thing I'll quickly mention is there seem to be some parallels. At the very time that Pentecost was happening, 100 years ago, that was the time the Hebrew language was being resurrected by Eliezer ben Yehuda. And then in 1948, when the Palestine Mandate ended and Israel was reborn, that also happened to be, in the spiritual realm, the latter-day movement. And then, of course, during the Six-Day War of 1967, what else was going on? It was the outbreak of the charismatic movement. I'm not sure what to make of all these coincidences or parallels, but it's definitely worth noting.
I've got a quick question, though, Kameel. If I'm not a part of a church that is considered to be charismatic or Pentecostal, does that mean I can't participate in this form of spiritual restoration?
It doesn't mean that at all. The Holy Spirit's not limited to churches and buildings and all the rest. However, what I would say to anyone listening and agreeing with your question, if you are thirsty, come to Jesus and drink, and He'll make sure you don't have just a few buckets of, but literally rivers of living water.
Faith and the Future with Neil Johnson and Dr. Kameel Majdali from Teach All Nations. Find articles, videos and podcasts from Dr. Kameel plus today's and other episodes of Faith in the Future in the Vision app or at vision.org.au.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.